What if the real reason you're stuck, sabotaging your progress, and not seeing results in life is because you're not seeing the thing that God gave you in your own mind? I'm not talking about manifestation. I'm talking about biblical imagination. Today we're going to talk about the foundational principle that before something can be created, it must first be seen in your imagination. So I'm going to give you some scripture. Let's talk about it. We actually see this played out in the book of Genesis, where God created everything, right? God is the only one who can create from nothing, who can speak things into existence. Let me be clear about that. But in Genesis chapter 1:26, it says, "Let us make man in our image." Imagination. So before God formed man, he had him imagined in his own mind, right? But in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7 is when we see that God formed man. This is where God squeezed and formed man. This was a physical action. So if you look at the sequence here, God had man imagined, and then he formed him. So in order to get where you want to go, in order to create what you desire to create, you must first see it in your mind. The problem is, so many people struggle with that. But we're going to talk about that. Here's why your imagination is important. It shapes your identity and your reality. So Proverbs 23 verse 7 says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." You don't become what you say, you become how you see yourself internally. And this inner picture determines how you show up. Most people imagine failure, worst case scenarios, sickness, decline, but they never imagine success, the good, the God-given, the redeemed outcome, the favorable outcome. And I never understood that. Your imagination is either building you up or destroying your life. Think about that. Think about the last time you thought of the worst case scenario before a situation ever even happened. God can't give you what he desires if you are going to sabotage yourself. So this is where you need to start reflecting on how you see yourself. You need to remember whose child you are, and you need to change that inner image. And this actually goes down into identity, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But here's the thing about imagination. It has no limits. We actually see this in scripture. And God himself said, nothing they imagine will be restrained from them. This is Genesis chapter 11, verse 6. Now, even though the Tower of Babel was meant for evil, notice how God never questioned their skill, strength, or intelligence. He pointed to their imagination as the source of their unstoppable momentum. So that tells us something here, very important here, that even if imagination is powerful in rebellion, just imagine the power you have when it's submitted to God and used for good, used for your favorable outcomes. Imagination isn't some cute, childish thing. It is spiritual technology that God embedded into humans. Let me give you a couple of examples of how imagination precedes formation. So before a house exists, there's a blueprint. But before the blueprint, there's imagination. Someone had to imagine the windows, the doors, the layout, the flow of the entire house, right? Then imagination became the blueprint, and then the blueprint became the structure. So everything in life follows the same sequence. Imagination, blueprint, formation. Just think about it for a second. If somebody wanted to build a business and they wanted to create a business that created financial freedom, they wanted to impact others, well, that would be the vision, the imagination in their own mind. Then the blueprint would be the details of that business. Who you're going to serve? What is the transformation? What problem are you solving? How are you going to package it? Is it going to be a product or is it going to be a service? That would be the blueprint. Then the formation would be the actions behind building the business, posting the content, acquiring clients. Are you with me so far? Let me give you another example. Abraham. When God showed Abraham the promise, which was giving him a mental image of the stars in the sky, he said that your descendants will be as vast as the stars in the sky. That was the mental image. That was the image he had to hold on to, that he was able to reference for the promise that God would deliver. And that was his image. Every time he looked up in the stars, that was his imagination going, thinking, man, this is how vast my descendants will be. I will be the father of many nations. I want you to think about that for a minute, because I believe that was very important. And that detail there really shapes how God wanted Abraham to see the stars, because that mental image gave him hope. And that imagination in your own mind, when you're able to see the success, when you're able to see the outcome in your own mind first before you build, then faith and action follow, which is what we're going to talk about now. So clearly, imagination is not enough. It requires faith and action, okay? We see that faith without works is dead. So if you don't take action steps towards building the dream, the business, or pursuing the thing that you desire, you're never going to get there. God can give you the idea, but he's not going to form it for you. So without the inner picture, you're never going to have the faith to act. And it goes a lot deeper when you think about that. Because if you don't see it in your mind, then you're not going to be able to take steps, because you're going to be very vague. And then this goes down into your identity. If you haven't changed your identity to become the person who can do the thing, then it's going to be impossible for you to take action. Because if you say you want $10,000 a month, but your identity has not been changed to reach that threshold, your nervous system is going to think, whoa, hold on, danger here, this is flight or fight. So you have to almost program your identity, your inner image, to the desires you want, and then take action that would align with that identity. So let me give you some examples. This is why some people struggle when it comes to creating things. They don't have a clear vision, and so they sabotage themselves, or they settle for less because they don't know where they're going. So formation requires imagination. This is something I was working on with my clients when we went over mindset and vision. We had to talk about mindset and we had to talk about vision, because in order to get to the desired result of earning $10,000 a month, they had to see it in their own mind. Because if they didn't see it in their own mind first, it was going to be impossible to reach that goal. And like I said, this is about identity. If you don't identify as someone who can earn $10,000 a month, if you don't identify as someone who is a business owner, a content creator, you're going to sabotage yourself and procrastinate because your nervous system isn't regulated. So what that means is that you need to get clear on some questions. You need to get clarity on where you're going. So if you have the imagination, you see where you want to go, get clear on it. So for example, that might be like, what does a 10K a month business look like? How much are you making? Maybe you're making more than that. What does business look like? What does your lifestyle look like? Getting clear on those questions helps you, because formation becomes easier. You know where you're going and you know what you're doing. So if you're stuck in a 9-to-5 mentality, it's going to be impossible to reach 10K a month because your imagination is capped at the 9-to-5. When I first started in business, when I was going through a really hard season back in 2020, when it came to building a business, after I was already about 2 to 3 years into my business journey, I struggled to see in my own mind the results. I wish I knew this when I first started, because I could have been a lot further in life, because I was sabotaging myself. I was really stuck because I couldn't see it in my own mind. Remember that everything God created started in the imagination. And like I said before, and I want to say it again, God is the only one who can speak things into his existence. I'm not telling you that you can speak things into existence. I'm telling you that everything that was once created, from this iPad, the computer, the phone you have, started in the imagination. The tables, the woodworking, that all started in someone's imagination. So everything that humans create start in the mind. So without God-aligned imagination, no formation is going to follow. And this is why it's important to follow the model and structure that God set for us. And what you allow yourself to imagine becomes the blueprint for your future. Listen, I really hope that this blessed you. I hope that you found it helpful. And if you did, subscribe to the channel. I post faith-based content. I'm documenting my journey so that I can help you grow your faith and your business. And so if you like that kind of content, be sure to subscribe and smash that like button. And comment down below what really stood out to you. What was your takeaway from this video? Now, before you go, I posted a video recently called Quit Your Job with These Principles. This is where I break down the 3 principles that you can follow to leave your job and quit the 9-to-5 for good. So go check that out. I hope that it blesses you. I'll see you in the next video.